We'll get back down to Canberra in just a moment, but some breaking news. We were just discussing the role of the Governor-General David Hurley in this Scott Morrison multi-ministry affair. Well, a statement has just come off the fax machine. The Governor-General has explained his actions effectively, saying it wasn't his responsibility to advise the broader ministry or Parliament or public about these kinds of administrative changes. And he says the Governor-General had no reason to believe that appointments would not be communicated. Now, to me, that makes absolute sense. His job is to do what the Prime Minister advises him to do. These are routine administrative changes. It's not his job then to tell the world or to check whether or not the Prime Minister has told his colleagues. That's certainly the line out of Yarralumla just a few minutes ago. Let's go to Canberra now and catch up with Phil Coorey, who's the political editor of the Australian Financial Review. Just on that breaking news, Phil, that would make sense, wouldn't it? It's not the Governor-General's job to tell everybody about everything he signs.
No, that's right, and he did sort of say that the other day in a statement, but he's a bit more forthright in the one he's just released, Chris. It sort of adds to the spectre that the former Prime Minister really is quite friendless at the moment. Upon these revelations, whether it's his own colleagues, the government, and now the GG, it's quite rare for the Governor-General to make such a statement. But you could sort of argue he's joined the criticism over the secrecy in his own subtle way.
Where do you think this controversy is heading?
Oh, look, it's hard to tell. I think we won't know until Monday next week when Prime Minister Albanese receives the advice from the Solicitor General as to whether there was anything illegal that went on. Now, the expectation is that there wasn't. So I guess the call will then be Albanese. I suspect there's going to be an inquiry of sorts. They've all but, confirmed that. And Labor's motive is clearly not just to get to the bottom of what happened, but to try and embarrass as many surviving members of the coalition as senior as possible as well. To find, that he used language yesterday to the effect, we're going to bring to account anyone who had anything to do with this and any knowledge of this. So I suspect that's where we'll go next.
Yeah, so it's going to be a millstone around the opposition's neck. No doubt there'll be a censure motion that Scott Morrison misled Parliament by not revealing this. Let me just show a clip of Scott Morrison today, one of his attempts to explain why he didn't tell his ministerial colleagues that he was shadowing their powers.
Well, as I said, I apologise for any concern this has caused about those issues, and I understand that concern, and that's why I'm standing here today. But at the same time, I did not want any of my ministers to be going about their daily business any different to what they were doing before. I was concerned that these issues could have been misconstrued and misunderstood and undermine the confidence of ministers in the performance of their duties at that time, and I did not consider that to be in the country's interest.
Phil, isn't this completely inconsistent? Because he said he thought Matthias Cormann had been told and should have been told and apologised that he wasn't told. But then in that grab, he says, actually, no, it was his deliberate strategy not to tell the ministers because that might affect their behaviour.
And the fact that Greg Hunt knew full well that his portfolio was also being shadowed and in fact had agreed to it, given the level of power that he had under the Biosecurity Act. So yes, it is inconsistent with both of those. And look, I can guarantee that the ministers who didn't know would rather have known.
Absolutely.
Than not
why
knowing.
do you believe? Why do you believe Scott Morrison wanted to have these powers sworn to himself?
Look, only he can really answer that, Chris. But there's a lot of theories around. Look, you can see the logic as to the health and finance thing. Back in the initial weeks of the pandemic when the whole world was collapsing, and it didn't hurt to sort of have a sort of backup mechanism in case someone fell ill, or just the sheer weight of the powers the two ministers had. It didn't hurt to have that sort of responsibility spread a bit. And had that been announced at the time, we would have accepted it. We were accepting far more, far weirder and unprecedented things than that at the time. But as for and the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison's been honest about why he knocked off Keith Pitt, to knock off that gas thing. But as for Treasury and Home Affairs, which is more than 12 months later, when we're in a relatively benign period of COVID, I just don't think it passes muster. Mr Morrison's reasoning that Josh Frydenberg and Karen Andrews needed some sort of backup in COVID. There's a suspicion in the Liberal Party that he wanted to make sure Karen Andrews didn't do anything soft on boats, like let the Billawheeler family stay, and that in terms of Treasury, he was concerned about Chinese trying to take over Australian assets with a weakened economy. Don't forget back then, Chris, in May 21, the government was eyeing off an early election because we thought we were through COVID. Delta hadn't come along at that stage.
Yep.
And even Victoria was open. That's how good things were. So. Look, there's a lot of people sort of with theories, but no one's really accepting the PM's reasoning for what he did with those two portfolios.
Fascinating stuff, Phil. Thanks for joining us. Good luck to your Blues on the weekend.
No, we need it, mate. Thanks. Cheers.
Phil Coorey there, one of the Canberra Press Gallery's most prominent Carlton supporters.